Hey, Goddess Nadine here. Today I want to talk to you about something called Dark Night of the Soul, which I see a lot of people posting about, and it's almost expected by spiritual practitioners that this is something that you're going to experience. And I want to debunk that myth. This whole idea is based on a treatise and a poem by a 16th century Spanish philosopher named St. John of the Cross. And he theorized that the dark night of the soul comes after the illumination of connecting with God's Spirit, but when that connection isn't yet stable. And neuroscientifically speaking, of course, they didn't understand these things about the brain back then. What's happening when people are experiencing this dark night of the soul phenomena is that their unhealed trauma is coming up to be healed. That said, if we don't know how to heal those traumas, it being brought up by our brain at that time isn't going to do us much good. In fact, it could just re-traumatize us or make our circumstances even worse because, of course, we manifest not only from our beliefs, but from our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our words, and our actions. So if you're experiencing a dark night of the soul, I'm here to tell you there's hope and there's better ways to deal with it than just enduring it. There's better ways to deal with it than just analyzing, self-analyzing all these things. Neurologically speaking, when we experience trauma, our brain just kind of puts it to the side because we have survival to focus on usually. So our brain puts those things to the side, and there they remain to the side until our brain perceives that we have enough safety to properly process those things. So this can happen when we have actually good relationships. I've had that, experience in my own life. It can happen when we've reached financial stability or whatever. When our brain thinks, okay, we're safe now, we have time and space to unpack this stuff and figure out what to do with it, right? Because the amygdala response is just put cognitive processing aside, store these memories somewhere, and survive, right? Do what you got to do to survive. So the dark night of the soul is basically that. It's the unpacking. Your brain's like, okay, we're in a place of safety where we can do something about all this junk. However, because we are not trained on how to properly process those things, like I said, they can re-traumatize us. They can make us feel like we're going crazy. They can cause us, drive us to manifest worse circumstances, which, for example, I had with my own heartbreak, dark night of the soul, a lot of soul searching, and my unconscious focus on loss caused me to lose pretty much everything else in my life at that time. I mean, literally, I lost my car. I lost my 2 businesses. Well, I didn't fully lose them, but my income went down the drain. I lost my house, everything. So we unconsciously can manifest from those dark night of the soul things if we're not careful. The good news is that there actually is proven methodologies to deal with trauma, and they are super fast, super effective, but not very many people know about them. And what I'm talking about here is neurolinguistic programming. And, if you're just looking up neurolinguistic programming and trauma, you're not going to find much. You have to actually know the technique names to be able to do effective searches. A lot of people say NLP is pseudoscience, but it actually has clinically been proven to successfully treat PTSD and unresolved trauma. So typically it takes 1 to 3 sessions. My worst case of complex PTSD that I worked with took 4 sessions in conjunction with some other training that she received. She worked with me for 6 weeks and completely resolved all of her mental and emotional and relationship challenges. So it is possible. And I've got some clinical research on my website, but that's what you should be aware of. If like, don't look forward to some dark night of the soul as if it's a spiritual rite of passage. It's not. It's just your brain saying, oh, we've achieved a certain level of safety and we can now unpack these things. And it would be much more beneficial to you to properly process those traumatic memories and things with neurolinguistic programming, get them all filed away nice and neatly in your long-term storage where they belong, separated from the emotional, the triggers, separated from the emotional response. And so your dark night of the soul doesn't have to be devastating. And that's what I wanted to let you know about today.